Hello, and welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I am the producer, Jason Lewis. I would like to thank you for tuning in to the From the Shadows podcast. And without further ado, here is your host, Shane Grove.
Hey, everybody. This is Shane, the host of From the Shadows podcast. I'm here tonight with the super producer, Jason. What's up, Jason?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Greetings, everybody. How about you, Shane? How are you doing?
You know, if I was doing any better, there'd have to be two of me to be able to stand it. I mean, that's just the way it is, man.
That's doing good. All right.
That's doing really good. And I don't want to brag, so I'll stop right there when it comes to how good I'm doing. But you know why I'm really doing good is tonight's episode, this morning's episode, this afternoon's episode, whenever you're listening. I think we're calling it Cameron Jones 2.0.
That sounds right. That's it.
Cameron. So to our loyal listeners, you'll remember we had Cameron Jones on not too long ago, a couple episodes back, and it was basically a Mothman episode.
Yes.
We talked about the legendary creature from Point Pleasant, and when we got done and got off the air, we got to talking to Cameron a little bit, and he's like, hey, I've got UFO stories, I've got Bigfoot stories, and I've got ghost stories. And, if somebody's going to throw down the gauntlet like that, we're going to call him on the carpet. We're going to make him come back.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what we did. And I'll tell you what, Jason,
it was awesome.
It was. I dare say it was as good or better than the Mothman episode.
Yeah, we got the number 2 Mothman guy in the world, and then he's telling us that he had more information on basically all the things that we hold dear to our heart. So naturally, we were going to have him back. Like I told him off air, I said, I'm going to have you back either willingly or you're going to be dragged back kicking and screaming. Either way, you're coming back, buddy.
And just as a teaser, he had some great ghost stories, and I thought, man, if he doesn't have anything else than these ghost stories, this is going to be a great episode. Wait till you hear the UFO story. I'm not going to say anything more, but it's fantastic. So we were so glad that Cameron had time to come back and do another episode with us. So we're happy to share that with you tonight. And before we get that episode going, we just want to thank everybody who's been tuning in, sharing, because our numbers are just unbelievable. And we keep saying that, but it blows our mind every time we see the download numbers and we see the views on YouTube, and how every week there's 5 to 10 people joining the After the Shadows discussion group on Facebook. We have new members of the From the Shadows podcast Facebook page, the Instagram page. Every day there's 5 to 10 new people.
Indeed.
Joining up. I mean, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And, so we encourage everybody. If you're listening, there's no reason why you're not a member of After the Shadows or Instagram page From the Shadows podcast, because those are, every day we're putting something up there to either make you think, or make you laugh, or, a lot of our members, especially on After the Shadows, are putting up some cool stories and cool, funny things. So we love all the camaraderie, I think, from our community that we're kind of building, and it's a lot of fun. And along with that, if you have some stories or you have stuff that you want us to check out, like if there's a topic we haven't checked out, like I'm just throwing out the Jersey Devil. We have never done a podcast on the Jersey Devil. Let us know if there's something you want us to check out, and we'll do a podcast on it. We'll do something on it. So feel free to interact and let us know because we love it. We get a lot of good messages.
Yes, we do.
Thankfully, we haven't gotten any bad messages that were directed at us. We may or may not have had a bad message directed at us about a guest, but I can't be responsible for anything a guest has done.
Right.
Or Jerry, but that's a whole other podcast in and of itself. So we appreciate all the support. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining all the different social media platforms we have. Thank you for subscribing. Just keep it up. If you haven't checked out our new merchandise page, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com, get yourself a sweet T-shirt, sweet coffee mug, sweet sticker. I might even autograph a book or two for you if that's what you really, really want. If any of our fans can read. I don't know. You think any of our fans can read?
Oh, yeah. I think we have some very intelligent fans.
Well, hey, Jason, don't tell them, but you don't have to be really smart to read anything that I wrote. Just throwing it out there.
Well, I'll tell you what. You mentioned earlier about the downloads. There is a direct correlation here. I would like to say that I really, really, really appreciate it when you guys subscribe to the podcast. And when you tell a friend about it. We've noticed people have been sharing it. Our numbers are growing. And that makes it a lot easier to get, shall we say, more famous guests on. It's kind of nice when we try to contact a guest and they say, oh, yeah, we've heard about you guys. You ain't been around long, but, yeah, we've heard about your show. Sure, we'll come on. And then we're getting that more and more. So
that's kind of silly, as a matter of fact, that is that people, people that we do get to talk to, and haven't talked to on the air yet, the people that we talk to off the air that we're trying to set up interviews with, it's like, I can't even believe these people want to come on and spend some time with us.
And that's all because of our listeners.
Yeah.
We're on, you got to share the podcast, you got to like it, and that increases our numbers, and that's what I believe a lot of the talent out there is more comfortable with, because we're the new kids on the block here, and all of a sudden we start getting some downloads, and then we go to call like a Nick Redford, and then we say, hey, you mind coming on to our podcast and tell us about what's going on right now? And they start looking us up and start seeing the shows that we've done, and they start looking at the demographics we hit, the numbers that we're putting out, and sure, I'll come on. And that's becoming more and more.
Now, Jason, that's a complete misrepresentation of what really happened. It was Elisa getting a hold of Nick Redford and saying, Nick.
Elisa might have had something to do with that. Absolutely. But I was using him as an example.
Yeah, but we can't let that slide like that. Come on, we got to be honest.
All right,
we got to be honest. We don't have pull like Elisa does.
Hey, we have a very intelligent and a very funny and witty field investigator.
Okay, if you say so. I just think she knows how to butter people's biscuits. That's a saying that we like to use in the songwriting.
Oh, you guys in the songwriting industry. I'm telling you, your lingo, one of a kind.
So everybody, thanks for checking us out, and that we're not just trying to butter your biscuits, man. we really do appreciate it, and that's why we brought Cameron Jones back for another episode, because you guys deserve to hear the cool stuff he has to say. So we'll get out of the way and give Cameron Jones his due here, and let him entertain you for the rest of at least the next hour. So thanks, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep, take it easy. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove, and joining me tonight is the super producer, Jason.
Greetings, everyone.
And, we had so much fun with our guest tonight, the first time he was on, that we decided we were going to bring him back. And, this is, it's not even a two-parter. It's just we're bringing him back this quick. Mr. Cameron Jones, how you doing tonight?
Hey, doing pretty good. I was really, really very appreciative of being invited back. I had so much fun with you guys. I've done a few podcasts, and this one, my last experience with you guys was the best I've had so far. So I'm really excited to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you, Cameron.
Hey, Jason.
Thank you.
I want to point it out, Jason, that it was just me and you because Alyssa fell asleep and the judge couldn't join us. So it's me and you that made it the best time ever for Cam.
All right.
and I'm not going to lie, everybody. We're bringing Cameron back because he claims that he is into so many different cool things that we can fill up a whole nother show talking about 3 of his favorite subjects: Bigfoot, UFOs, and the best pizza in Circleville. No, I mean,
Yeah.
unless you want to shamelessly plug the best pizza in Circleville, and maybe get us all some free pizza.
We have an awful large amount of pizza places for a town this small. It's true.
Well, I think that goes hand in hand in Ohio. That every small town has a ridiculous amount of pizza places.
Yeah,
Really?
you've noticed
Yeah?
that too. Yeah, it's like they have an overabundance of pizza locations around here.
Hey, listen, if the pizza places and the churches closed down in Bucyrus, there would be nothing going on. Saturday
Oh my gosh.
night, Saturday night or Sunday morning. So.
On my street alone, when I go out on my front porch, I live on a little bit of a hill, I can see 5 churches just on this street. It's pretty
Holy
crazy.
smokes.
Wow.
Holy
Yeah.
smokes. What kind of crazy, terrible stuff is going on in Circleville that you guys need a church?
Well, that is kind of interesting that you mentioned that because I have, since me and some of my family moved in this house a few years ago, we've had like pretty much nonstop paranormal activity in this house, and I've written about some of the experiences we've had on Side of Post, this local online news publication I write for, and I actually was contacted by a former owner of this house, and she's also had similar experiences. But my friend, a good friend of mine, John, he's one of my best friends. He lives just around the corner. He pointed out that, I've always thought there's something strange about this property, just all the different kinds of activity here. And he pointed out how, there are times, especially back in the day, when if an area had a reputation for being haunted or quote unquote evil in some way, that churches always tried to build their churches on or around that property to kind of somehow like cast out the evil. And I live right across from the Catholic Church, and all of these churches that on this street, Mound Street, were built about 100 years ago, which is when this house was built. So I don't know, that's always interested me. John's like, I wonder if there's a reason why there's so many churches around the block that you live in, because maybe it has a long reputation of paranormal activity.
Well, okay, so before we get into your house, then because I have never heard that churches were built around places that were thought of to have paranormal activity. I mean, did you do any like research on that kind of statement?
It definitely kind of holds up. I know that it's true for places that have the reputation for like paganism. Back hundreds of years ago, whenever there was like a pagan temple, or in South America, even like with the Mayan temples, they always were kind of, the churches had a habit of building churches on land that was previously associated with paganism or evil in any way, or not even evil, but just like the Mayans obviously were not a Christian religion, so Christians, the Christian church considered that kind of evil in a way, I guess. It was
sacrilegious,
not sacrilege. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So they would build churches on these sites, and supposedly, according to my friend, and I did do a little bit of research, areas that are known for lots of different types of paranormal activity, definitely is where you'll find a lot of churches.
Well, I think that's fascinating. I've never thought about that before, but I can see how they would do that.
Well, yeah. So Cameron, let's get in. Man, we got right into it right away. Religion and paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought we were going to talk about pizza for a little bit longer, but So what kind of stuff has happened at your current house then?
Well, so I moved in about 5 years ago, and we did notice that the house had a large number of previous owners. Over we were able to look back 20 years, and it had 15 to 20 owners. It seemed like. But yeah, it kept going from people kept buying and selling it. And well, when we moved in, didn't really notice anything quite at first, but the first thing we started noticing was footsteps upstairs. And I would be downstairs home alone, or my mother would be here. It would be two of us, and we'd start hearing these footsteps. And for a while we just kind of wrote it off. We would hear some footsteps here and there upstairs, but I always thought maybe it was the heating. Some of the plumbing or something. But then these footsteps started getting more distinct. And it got to the point where, 6 months after moving here, I would sit down in the living room and I would, I'd hear the footsteps, I'd pause the TV, and I would listen to whatever it was, walk from one side of the upstairs to the other, kind of stop, and then walk some more. I mean, it was just amazing. I was like, I honestly don't think we're imagining this. And then that went on for a long time. And then it kind of progressed to seeing things out of the corner of my eye, which, of course, again, I wrote off over and over. But it was I always would see this short, dark figure out of the corner of my eye. And whenever I would turn, to look at it, of course, it'd be gone. And then other things started happening. One incident that really sticks out, that was really scary, was my mother and I were sitting in the living room, and I had my cell phone on the side table. It was a flat table, and we both heard this loud thump. And we looked over, and my cell phone was on the floor, and I was like, how the heck did that happen? But I just picked it up, made sure it wasn't broke, and put it back on the table. And we were just like, that's weird. And I, made sure that it wasn't going to happen again. And then 5-10 minutes later, the cell phone literally flies halfway across the room.
And you guys witnessed this?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That time we actually saw it. The second time we saw it fly off the table and, land on the rug, I would say 6-8 feet away. And it was when that happened, it was when I just started to decide to start keeping a journal, a diary of everything that was happening.
I'd like to point out that when that stuff started happening before, that's when the people got the for sale sign out and put it in the front yard. You guys decided to keep a journal, and
it's really smart. But go ahead.
I mean, what's that say for you guys that you guys have stayed 5 years already?
Yeah, it's oddly, sometimes when the activity is really intense or something especially kind of crazy happens, it is kind of scary in that moment. But I'm the one who's here the most because I work from home, so I definitely experience more than anybody else. But I've never really got in the sense of anything sinister or I never really got any bad vibes from it. so it's never really been scary in that way. And once I started keeping the journal, I was realizing how much stuff was happening that I would have forgot about. As I go back and look at the journal every now and then, yeah, I'm like, wow, I would have totally never remembered that. And when you see it in writing and you read through it, I'm just like, I can't believe all this. But what was I saying? But yeah, the journal's been really helpful. And I've kind of thought at this point, I've thought of living here as a sort of experiment, and that my interest in the paranormal, I never really experienced anything like this, even though I have had an interest since I was a kid. But I'm looking at this as more of like as some sort of like research project where I'm documenting what I'm seeing and hearing and experiencing, and it really is fascinating. It can be scary sometimes, but it's really like fascinating work, really.
So have you tried to you're more of an observer right now, is what you're saying? I mean, have you tried to do like an investigation in the house and try to get the spirit or spirits to interact with you?
Yeah, to make contact or
yeah. I mean, because now it's just like it sounds to me like you're just waiting for stuff to happen, and then just, okay, I'm gonna write it down and make a note. But have you tried to actually, provoke or get or elicit a response from it?
Yeah, I have done that a few times. There was an incident a couple weeks ago where I was downstairs in, I guess you would call it the laundry room of my home, and the laundry room door, which I always have to keep, we always we open it to walk in the laundry room and close behind us because we don't want the dogs coming in there. And I go in the laundry room, I close the door, and I start messing with the laundry, and then I hear this like creaking, and I look over, and the door is like slowly swinging open, and I walk over there, and then, of course, it's been really hot, and I feel this cold spot, like this really cold spot, like it was like not like normal, and I was like, maybe there is something here right now. So I tried to communicate, and I just basically did, is there anyone here? If you're trying to communicate, can you make a noise? Let me know that you are here. I've done that kind of stuff quite a few times, but I've never gotten a response. I have done some EVP work off and on, where I got a digital recorder a couple years ago, and I haven't heard any voices on playback, but I have heard noises that I didn't hear at the time. I'll play back the audio, and I'll hear like some crazy noises in the background that I definitely didn't hear at the time, because it was kind of like an experiment. So I was making sure there wasn't any other noises in the house, and I was alone. So yeah, I have done a little bit of work like that.
Wow,
But nothing really conclusive. Yeah.
Okay, have you done any research on your house in particularly to kind of find out, beyond how it's changed hands over the years? Did anything like happen in that particular area, maybe say 100 years ago or something?
Well, two things that kind of give some information on the background that I've come across was I exercise every day, so I walk up and down the street, and one time I was stopped by one of the ministers of the church up there. He has a little house next to it, like a priest house or something, and he lives in there. Mm-hmm. And he was outside. He started a conversation with me, and we were talking about. He was talking about my house, and he also was saying what I had heard, that there has been a lot of owners there. And I asked him just that. I was like, so how long have you lived on Mound Street, which is the street I lived? And he said that he'd lived there 40 some odd years. And I asked him if he knew of any deaths or anything like that associated with the house. And he remembers that somebody did die there decades ago. He said there was an old man. He remembered he was a friend to the judge next door, because evidently one of my neighbors was once a judge. He said the judge's friend lived there, and he died in the house. When I asked him when this happened, he remembered it was 20, 30 years ago, but he didn't have like an exact date. But okay. I double checked that with my friend John, and he said that he had heard that rumors that somebody had died in the house. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So maybe it's just more of a, I mean, because like if you're sitting there hearing footsteps, go back and forth upstairs in your house, it sounds to me like it's somebody just like checking things out, like seeing how things are, if it was a previous owner that may have died peacefully in the house, he just walking around, making sure everything's okay.
Are you implying, Shane, that maybe he didn't pass over and he kind of likes it there?
I'm not implying anything because I don't know exactly how that all works.
Yeah,
I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I said, from everybody that we've talked to, that seemingly sounds like what the majority of people who deal in spirits believe, that if somebody chooses not to pass over or doesn't go to the light or whatever for whatever reason, right, and they're kind of sticking around because maybe they like where they were, so maybe that sounds like the dude's just hanging out, like, this is my house, man.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a malevolent spirit at all.
Mm-hmm.
So Cameron, somebody reached out to you that used to live in the house then?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting story. When I posted my first article online, I think the title was a Circleville haunting. It was published by the Ohio Post, and that's has a lot of readers here in Circleville and the surrounding area. And in the article, I didn't give my address, of course, anything like that, but I mentioned that I lived on Mound Street. And so basically, the only thing these people knew was I lived in a house on Mound Street, and Mound Street has probably 150, maybe 175 houses on it total. It stretches the whole length of the city. And I was getting so many comments, just people really interested in what was going on, this, that, and the other, comments on the Facebook post where they linked the article. And one woman commented, and she said, "I wonder which house on Mound Street he lives in. I lived at blank, blank, blank Mound Street." She gave the house number. And I had all kinds of crazy activity there. Well, she lived in my house.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I did not know this woman. She did not know me. She moved to Columbus years ago, so that kind of blew my mind. That was like really good, like corroborating evidence. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
So did you end up talking to her then at all?
Yeah. After I messaged her, and I was like, I live at this address. I was like, I live in the same house you lived in, and she said, yeah, when we lived there, she said, of course, we never been interested in ghosts or anything like that. We didn't really know what to think, but we constantly heard footsteps and we heard our names being called. And, for the 2 years we lived there, we just had all kinds of activity. We didn't really know what to do, but she said that she always thinks about this house and the things that happened. And, we kind of like compared notes a little bit, and it seemed like a lot of the same stuff. Definitely a lot of the same kind of stuff.
So they had their name called?
That's fascinating. Wow.
Well, you say that's fascinating until you have your name called.
Well, I didn't have my name called, but when we went to that investigation in Kentucky at the Rolls Opera House, I'm telling you, it was beyond words, Shane. It was beyond words.
Interesting.
Yeah, it made me a believer. That's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard my name called a few times, and a couple times there's been people here, and I'll hear I remember once I heard my name called upstairs, and I went upstairs, and my sister was here that day, and it's like, okay, what do you want, basically? And she's like, what are you talking about? So the scariest is when I've heard my name called and there's been no one else here. And one time it scared. I was with my dogs downstairs. Somebody called out my name, and my dogs immediately went ballistic because they thought somebody else was in the house that they didn't know about. A stranger had walked in. So the dogs go nuts. And it was weird because it was a voice I did not recognize. Like, it was like a voice I didn't recognize. So I froze. So I'm like, somebody's in this house. Like, who the hell is it? So I went and looked, and of course there's nobody anywhere.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's
So-
kind of freaky right there.
So was it?
Yeah,
was it a
that
man?
was scary.
Was it a man's voice or a woman's voice?
Yeah, it was definitely masculine, and it was, it just sounded like, it was just a voice I didn't recognize, and so I thought maybe somebody had peeked in the door and called out, for somebody to see somebody was home or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was a masculine voice. I think it was definitely a man's voice.
Holy moly! So what? What do you know about the rest of the neighborhood then? I mean, is there something else going on in the neighborhood? Because to me, okay, we're talking about the churches get built around, maybe
There has been some
Five
there's
churches.
been some weird activity. Wow. Yeah. Acquaintance of mine who joined my UFO group, oftentimes in these UFO meetings we get off of other kind of paranormal topics, and he was talking about experience that him and his wife had in their car where they had almost like a time jump or some sort of time anomaly, which every now and then you hear about, where they parked and went into the Catholic Church to get some stuff for a rummage sale or something, and they said they were in there for 15 minutes, and they went out to their car and realized that like 2 hours had gone by. And when he said the Catholic Church, I was like, was this in the Circleville Catholic Church? And he said, yeah. I was like, that's across the street from me. So and I've always thought maybe there's just something strange about this property or surrounding area where it's just maybe like the veil between this world and the next is like a little bit thinner or something,
Cameron, I was just thinking that while you were summarizing what you had experienced there. I was just thinking that. I'm thinking like maybe it's the ley lines, the natural energy of the earth, something there.
Yeah, totally. I think it's possible for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's real.
The name Mound Street, I live on what's called Mound Street, and it got its name because there were Indian mounds built. There were a lot of Indian mounds on this street.
Okay.
And in Ohio, we have a really long history of mound culture where Native Americans built mounds where they would bury their dead and also place like sacred objects inside. So Mound Street was named Mound Street because at one point there was a lot of these Indian mounds there. So I don't know what to make of that, but
well think about it. That translates into a grave site. A huge grave sites.
Yeah, and what happened to the Indian mounds? If they were
probably desecrated and people moved it.
Yeah, whether these Indians chose this area because of some sort of metaphysical energy that they detected, or whether it could be this kind of weird vortex. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I really do want to do more research and talk with more neighbors. I really do want to do that, and I've been meaning to do that. And yeah, that's a good idea. I definitely think I should be reaching out to more people.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see, because Ohio, like you said, it has a rich history of the Native Americans building, mounds all over the state. So, do the mounds cause the supernatural activity, or the mounds there because of the supernatural activity, and that the Native Americans?
That's what I want.
Yeah, now that is the question right there. Yeah, exactly.
Well, as soon as you guys figure out the answer, let me know.
Well, that definitely warrants some research. We need to get our official researcher involved in this too. We'll get Elisa on that.
She's asleep. Remember?
Yes.
She's not researching. She's asleep for the second time.
We'll have to get her
ever since I posted those articles, I've had so many other paranormal groups, local paranormal investigators asking to come here, and I've explained to them that I myself am more of a researcher, but I do some investigating. But I've gotten so many offers that I haven't decided if and when I want to do that, but I just don't know which group would be best. And the one thing I'm worried about is I do not want to have any sort of like saging or exercising of the house, or people trying to free the spirits, send them on their way, or
right.
Some people, I definitely don't want any of that, because I don't really think it's my place to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want them to leave if they want to stay.
Which is interesting, because our good friends at the Paranormal Road, David Hensley, they won't go do an investigation unless they have the permission to help the spirits get to where they need to go. Because of his belief, like, they're not supposed to be here. Nobody is, they for whatever reason, they need help. They need guidance or direction or whatever. And he in his mind, he goes, it's kind of mean to not give them the help that they need. So it's kind of a different perspective that you have. I enjoy hearing other people's takes on, what is.
Yeah, I think some of these, situations where people come in and try to rid a house of spirits, I think there are certain situations where that can be accomplished and be positive, but I also think of it as a sort of like banishment and like forced exile for these, if they are spirits here. I don't know. There's a lot of different thoughts on that, especially in the paranormal community, for sure.
Yes, it is. That's a hot topic right there.
So are you trying to say that maybe the spirit knows they're not going to go somewhere quite as cool and refreshing as somebody who might have been nicer in their earthly time? And they're kind of just hanging out.
Possible.
It is definitely possible. Some of them might feel, like you said, they fear what's on the other side. So they knew they were happy where they were at, so they don't want to cross over.
Listen, I walk into the post office every day with those same fears, and I still go to the other side.
There's different thoughts. It's interesting because there's different, myself and a lot of other paranormal investigator researchers, we definitely think that there's at least 2, possibly 3 different types of hauntings. And I haven't exactly pinpointed for sure the type of haunting, if it is a haunting, traditional haunting, what kind of haunting I have here. But there's of course, as we've been talking about, there is an intelligent haunt where there's evidence of communication back and forth. An intelligent haunt is traditionally thought of as an earthbound spirit who, for one reason or another, hasn't passed over, like we've been discussing. But there's also hauntings that, I'm sure you guys have heard this, are what's called residual hauntings, which kind of falls into the whole stone tape theory, which I've always been interested in that everything from the rocks in the ground to the wood of the walls to, the stones in the property, everything can hold these energies and these memories, and they can replay them like a tape recorder. Now, with residual hauntings, you can't necessarily communicate. You're just seeing a replaying or hearing things that have already happened.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with that terminology there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish if I could communicate, I could prove one way or another. And then there's the third that some people subscribe to, which would be your classic like demonic poltergeist haunting, which would be a malevolent spirit, but not necessarily the spirit of a departed human, but something darker and more sinister. I'm not saying that's what I have here. I definitely haven't seen any evidence of that, but there are different types of hauntings.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds to me that you have the fourth option, which is the Casper the Friendly Ghost haunting, because your haunting sounds a lot more pleasant than most
yeah, it's
people's
not like the Amityville horror over here,
yeah,
anything like that,
Exactly. Now, have you had an opportunity to go and do any investigations other places in search of spirits and ghosts? And
Yeah, I've done investigations at the Mansfield Reformatory here in Ohio. I've done investigation of an alleged haunted property over near Zanesville, Ohio, that recently was featured on a television show a couple years ago. And I've been to Waverly Hills, which is a really famous one.
the ghosts, friends of ours and former guests, the Ghost Sisters, were just Waverly Sunday, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. I haven't been in so long. That place definitely has an atmosphere. So you said friends of yours recently investigated there?
Yeah, just Sunday.
Yeah,
the
Ghost Sisters. That's the name
Ghost
they
Sisters.
go by. Yep.
Yeah, they're from Marion, and they were a guest on our podcast January maybe, and yeah, they just went down with another group that was down there. They got asked to come along. They said it was amazing time. So
I believe that.
No thanks. So what? I always like to hear what were your thoughts about the Mansfield Reformatory?
That was the place that definitely impressed me the most. In that, besides like early in the day, I got a guided tour, so I could get all the information I could, and just all of the stories and accounts of things that happened, tragic, terrible things that happened when there were prisoners there. Also hearing experiences that other people have had since it's been deserted and closed. But really, that place made a huge impression on me because I had kind of just like a really crazy experience later on that night in what was essentially a church in a prison.
Yep.
And it was a church. It was set up for the inmates to go to church, and it was just really kind of gothic and scary, all the paint's pulling off the wall. So it definitely had an atmosphere. But I've never experienced like walking into a room, even at a location or here, where I've gotten such like just a strange feeling, and there's just something really it's just really hard to describe. But it was definitely an interesting experience that I had in that church, and we pretty sure we saw some shadows, darting here and there, and so the Mansfield is just. It was pretty cool. I definitely think it's as active as people think it is. I just got that impression.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place, and like the chapel that you spoke of, we filmed a music video there with.
So you've been there. You know all about it.
Oh yeah,
God,
we've both been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we filmed a music video there in the chapel with David Allen Coe, and then the Moonshine Bandits, and it's kind of a cool place. I mean, it's hard to believe. It really
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That chapel is really kind of has just a crazy like character to it. Yeah.
Yes, and then Jason and I are part of a movie that was filmed there last probably for a year and a half, over the course of a year and a half, and the interesting thing is Jason and I were in a scene, and we can't give away too much of the scene because the movie is not out yet. Hasn't been released yet. But Jason and I were playing prison guards, and it's probably 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was late, and we were on the 6th cell block. We were
on the 6th range.
6, yeah.
Oh yeah, the big huge cell wall with all the levels.
Yes, yeah, we were on level 6. We were at the top range. Yep.
It's so Jason, and this is the first time Jason and I had ever met. Okay.
Yep, that was the first day.
First time we ever met, and we're playing these prison guards, and we're supposed to be chasing this person down the or what do you want to call it?
You can refer to it as a catwalk there.
Catwalk.
But it's the range is what they usually call them. But it's more like a catwalk, very narrow.
And so for the last couple times we shot this thing, and here's Jason and I are supposed to like take off real earnest, stomping along the catwalk side by side, and they keep telling us to go back further and further to where we're so far out of like the light and anything that the movie is using to shoot. And here I am with this dude I ain't never met before, and I'm like, we're just kind of like, this is kind of spooky.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy over here. Yeah.
And so we're kind of looking around, and before they yelled, action, we're kind of standing there, and all of a sudden, the sound dude, David Chris, is sitting in one of the cells, and we never even saw him in there, and he's like, man, it's spooky here. Jason and I about jumped off of the cell.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was funny.
He's just like, because those cells are like real small and tiny, and he's just like sitting inside
at 3:30 in the morning too.
Yeah, that's right around the witching hour. Yep.
Oh yeah, he's just like, man, it's kind of spooky. We're like, why?
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't jump off that catwalk. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, I'm just glad that it wasn't one of them situations where we were away like, man, we got to get this take over with. I got to use the bathroom, because I'm sorry, but bladders would have emptied after that. I mean,
but it is such a spooky place. But I mean, there were so many people in there. It really didn't. You didn't really have a chance to get too scared because there's always stuff going on. But we did ask the director. We actually had him on the podcast too, and he poured through all the footage and he's listened to all the audio, and they really never caught anything. Because we thought for sure there would be something that got caught. Inadvertently, like in the background or noise. So, but everybody else tells us all these crazy experiences they have at the prison.
Oh yeah, spend more Chris Hahn. Remember, did you hear about his experience? Right? Where that early day shoot also, and they thought somebody was up there on the range in the corner watching them. And so he's all big and strong and everything, so he goes over there yelling, hey, you don't supposed to be in here and all this. And so he starts walking over there. This thing melts back into the shadows, which was nothing but a wall, and it's done. It was nobody never there. And he saw it was plain as day. Yeah, he said it freaked him out pretty good.
Wow.
But so now the place did you say Zanesville? Is that the house that was part of the Underground Railroad, or the barn was a place where runaway slaves like hid out, and there was a tunnel from the barn to the house?
No, I don't know if I'm familiar with that property. This is a place I just heard about through like friends of friends. This man that bought this property that had all this reputation of being haunted, and it really wasn't a habitable house. Like it was like all gutted inside and old. And we went there, and then I remember like it was like a year later or something. There was this obscure paranormal show. God, I don't even remember the name of it. I don't know if it was on Travel Channel or like one of those Halloween specials they do, or maybe it was Destination America. But there was this little segment. And there was the house I was in, and they're like, and now we'll take you to, near Zanesville, Ohio, where, and I was like, oh my gosh, we were there. So yeah.
I think I might have saw that program. Wasn't that whole program talking about the most haunted places in America? It was like a countdown or something of like the 10 most haunted places.
Yeah, that might have been it for sure. Yeah, that could have been it.
Yeah, I seem like I recall that program.
Yeah, they had like a map. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Like like they would have a map. They'd show a map like of the U.S. and they'd zoom in on the location or something. Like
that's how they transitioned between the cases as they went down their list. Yeah. Yeah, I did see
Yeah,
that. I can't remember
that
what
was it.
that was called. That was a good program too. I think it was a special though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it might. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember it being like a show. I think maybe it was like a special.
Yeah, yeah. I caught a good portion of that program too. Yeah, that was fascinating. So the Zanesville property. So you were in that. It's a gutted out husk of a house now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm curious on that.
Well, there was like ended up being like a group of four. Well, with me, I think there was maybe 5 people, and we did a lot of EVP work. Like that was kind of what we focused on. Of course, we tried to communicate, but we always had tape recorders running,
Mm-hmm.
and the house wasn't really that big, but we did a lot of EVPs, and we even did. We did like the flashlight test where, see if something could turn the flashlights on and off by kind of having the flashlights where it was easy to turn on and off. And we maybe possibly gotten some responses with that, but we did hear what sounded like voices in the back of one of the EVP tapes, like as we were talking to the air, basically saying, are you here? Why are you here? What's your name? How many of you are here? And we definitely heard at one point on one of the tapes, it was like 2 people talking, but we were really strict. Like when we were recording, like we didn't move, we didn't say anything other than the question, because we knew when we reviewed the tapes, we didn't want to be wondering if that was one of us talking. But we did hear 2 voices at one point kind of talking back and forth, but we couldn't make out what they were saying. So I guess, I mean, all in all, that's a success because, probably 9 times out of 10, when you do this kind of stuff, you don't really get anything.
Right. And it's amazing how when you're out trying to collect EVPs and that nature, how you are there and you're asking the questions in a controlled environment, you and your group, and everybody knows you got one person asking the questions, nobody else is talking. It's completely quiet. And you review that tape later and you hear noises that were not there. That is so creepy. But it's amazing. It's like, are they on a different frequency and the digital recorder can pick that up or what? I mean,
there's something
it's
there. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I gotta be honest with you, Jason. I think it'd be a whole heck of a lot creepier to be sitting there and hearing the voice in my ear behind.
Oh, a disembodied voice. Well, we ran across that at the Rolls Opera House also. As if it was a person standing there, but it was a voice, a disembodied voice, a voice that was coming from all around us. Not just
That doesn't sound great, man.
Those are scary for sure.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound great because at least afterwards you could just be like, holy, it just kind of dawns on you that the person was there. At the time, if you hear it, you're like, there's something right here, right now. Like I can't see it.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, remember on that one, I told you I was sitting on the aisle seat and how I was describing to you how I got touched. And it was just like a person's hand was on me. And it was incredible. I don't want to divert into that right now, but it's real. It's something to it. It's definitely something
I think so.
So let's go into one of your other areas of interest. How about the UFOs?
Oh, my favorite.
That's your favorite?
Oh yeah,
I thought ghosts were your favorite.
Well, I love UFOs too.
You're just a freak.
Yes.
So it's going to be Jason the Freak from Alice's Jason the Producer. So you are part of a UFO group down there.
Yeah, here in Circleville, I'm part of. I'm the chief investigator now of what is Roundtown UFO Society, and it was founded by our director Pete in 1989. So it's we've been here over 30 years. We're one of not the, but we're one of the oldest UFO groups in the Midwest for sure. And we get together once a month at the local library, and we discuss the latest events in ufology, as well as a lot of times we have guests who come hear about our group, and they come and they want to talk about their experiences, what they've seen. So we have a lot of that, which is really great. We always welcome people to come and tell us if they've had a sighting. But we also a couple of years ago, we definitely started focusing more as well at investigating local sightings here in Central Ohio. So as well as being a group, we also are investigating groups. So people will call us, contact us if they've had a sighting, and if it's recent, like very recent, then we'll go out to the location and do like a whole kind of investigation and just at least document it. So, and sometimes we try to find answers for the people, but yeah, it's a really great group. We have probably 100 members total, from over the years, but we usually get 20 to 30 people at every meeting, which is more than the local MUFON meetings get. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
I'd say we have a really great group of people for sure.
So, okay. So now I'm going to start with the 100 questions. So I know you're pretty excited about this. So I can tell. Can you tell the tense excitement in your silence? So, okay. Have you yourself ever had a UFO experience?
I personally have never seen anything that I would consider a true UFO. I wish I had. Like a lot of our members have had UFO experiences. The only experience I've had that could be related was I did have an experience with missing time about 18 years ago. A missing time experience. So that could have been possibly. I mean, a lot of missing time experiences are associated with abductions, but I can't say for sure. But I've never seen a UFO.
So before we go any further, then, are you gonna fill us in on the lost missing time? Or are you just gonna let us wonder? Are you trying to angle in for a third?
Well, no, I don't mind.
So what happened when you experienced
So this
that?
was 2002. I just graduated high school, and me and two friends, we were, my friend, I'll just use her first names, Megan and Tasha. I was friends with them, and we had gotten together and went to a movie. I think it was one of the Lord of the Rings movies, maybe, within theaters, but I remember that. And we went and saw that. We're at the movies in Lancaster, Ohio. And then we came back to Central Ohio, where me and Megan are from, Circleville, and our friend Tasha lived out in the middle of nowhere. The closest city would be Waverly, Ohio, but she lived out in the middle of nowhere. And so it was late. It was relatively late. Myself and Megan were 18, and Tasha was 17, and Tasha still had a curfew. She lived with her parents and had a curfew. So we were trying to get her home before, I think it was 11 o'clock. So we were aware of the time. So to get to Tasha's house, you take a couple main highways, U.S. Route 23, and then you get on another highway. And then once you turn off the highway, you've got 15 to 20 minutes of nothing but side roads. And, I remember, this is only the second or third time I've been to her house, but, it's so far out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and you've got, so you're taking this road and you've got 5 or 6 turns, and eventually we get to Tasha's house, and she kind of jumps out of the car and runs inside because she's trying to get there right at 11 o'clock, and she did. So she made her curfew. That's how we remember the time. And so we drop her off, and we backed down the driveway and started our return trip to what would have been Circleville, which was about 50 minutes away, 40 minutes away. Anyways, so we started a return trip, and we remember making one turn, and then, so we go about a mile, we make a turn, and then like a light switch, we both look up, and we are on a highway. We're on Route 23 in Chillicothe, Ohio. So in the blink of an eye, we traveled, I would say, 25 miles. And we looked down. I looked down at the clock in my car, and it was 12:30.
So an hour and a half and 25 miles. Okay.
Yeah, and it was. I know it's one of the scariest things that ever happened to me because, and initially we were freaking out, and if I had been by myself, I would have somehow tried to explain it away. But Megan experienced the same thing. And we kind of rode home in silence. We didn't know what to make of it. I dropped her off, and she will, still to this day, she doesn't like to talk about that. She doesn't like to talk about that night because it scares her so much to think about. I've never gone back to the area. I was so scared by it that I've never gone back to that house or that general area. Like, I've always been way too scared to do it. It was just a really scary experience. But there have been a lot of UFO sightings in that area. A lot. We've noticed in our group a lot of UFO reports coming from that general area. So it's possible that I also remember having really crazy nightmares after the event, where I kept having a reoccurring dream of the car. My car stopped in the middle of the road, and this country road stopped in the middle of the road, and I remember me and my friend Megan are just staring straight ahead, not moving. And I remember like being aware of like figures off to the side of the car in the trees. This was kind of like the woods. But I'm not saying that happened, but that's like a reoccurring dream I kept having after for a few weeks.
So did your friend Megan, right? Did she have any dreams similar to yours, or? Did she
never told me about any dreams. I'm pretty sure I discussed my dreams with her, but I don't remember her ever having commenting on any. It's possible she did, but just didn't tell me. She didn't like to talk about it, but it's possible.
Is it possible she remembers a little bit more than you do and doesn't want to talk about it? Or
that's a possibility.
Here's the thing is, though, if somebody shares your experience, I would think you would find some sort of comfort in having somebody to talk to about it. So, I don't know.
Maybe some kind of a hypnotic regression, the both of you guys, if you got put under at a different time. It would be interesting to see how your stories would correlate with each other.
See, Jason just wants to go right to the torturous.
No, that's not torture. I just want to figure out.
Come on.
No, I've having some sort of regression treatment, hypnotic regression, like a lot of people who have missing time or abduction experiences do. Yes. It's something I've definitely thought about.
But do you really want to know? Do you really want to know?
I've often thought that it might be really scary if I remembered something that was traumatic, for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a factor that has to be weighed in there, because you don't know. It could be a reason why they wipe your memory, because it might be traumatic to individuals that, when they do their testing on them or whatever they do. So maybe it's commonplace why people that have the missing time, to them, they experience it as missing time, because maybe it's the aliens or whoever that's doing it figure that, let's just take that memory away from them because we might psychologically damage them. You never know.
As opposed to the other psychological damage of knowing you've got missing time and having nightmares for a couple of weeks. Come on. It'd be better just to maybe know.
Okay, well, Cameron, in your dream, you said you saw entities in the trees. if have you ever thought about it? Can you like did you ever try to like sketch out what they look like? Did they look humanoid, or did they, I mean, what did they look like? Point blank.
I remember being in my dreams. I was aware of figures in the trees, not up in the trees, but amongst the trees.
Amongst the trees, okay.
And
yeah, because we're in a country road here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a wood. There were wooded areas that we went through to get there.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you what they look like. I mean, in my dream, I'm staring straight ahead, but I'm like aware of like these non-human things to the side of the car in the trees. Mm-hmm. But I can't remember what they look like, or if I even knew what they looked like.
Well, that's fascinating.
Now, did you guys ever discuss this with the friend that you dropped off?
Yeah, we told her about it. I told her about it. She thought it was crazy, but she didn't. I don't know. She didn't really. I don't know if she just kind of, at the time, if she just kind of wrote it off as we were joking, or that we were messing with her, or something. But yeah, I remember telling her about it.
Since she lived out there, you'd think. That's what's weird is, so somebody that lived out there, it didn't happen to them, but somebody who's only out there one time or two, a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, if it was happening all the time, I don't think anybody would live out there. You know what I mean? Like if it was happening to everybody.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know what, Cameron? You're a lucky guy. You just gotta look at it that way, right?
Are you guys now? You were talking about hypnotic regression. Are you guys familiar with the Betty and Barney Hill case from the 1960s?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. See that I just thought of it. When you mentioned hypnotic regression, because I guess that's known as the first widely reported abduction case. But they were, Betty and Barney Hill were a couple, and they were visiting Niagara Falls. I think it was September 1961, and they're on their way home in the middle of the night, out
in Vermont,
in the middle of New Hampshire, Vermont. I think it was.
Vermont.
Yeah. They were driving back to New Hampshire where they lived, and I think it was Vermont. And at the time, they saw. Actually, they saw nothing. They recalled hearing some strange noises, beeping sounds at one point on the road, but when they got home and they realized that they had lost a significant amount of time. They got home way later than they should have, and but like me, they started having disturbing dreams, and it was those dreams that they decided to go under hypnosis. And of course, it's a really famous case, and it was when they went under hypnosis that they recalled the rest of the night, what happened to them.
Yes. And they hypnotized them at different times too. And both recollections were very similar. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah. They were just like you said, they were regressed separately, and their regressions were recorded and compared, and they matched up. I mean, they completely matched up.
Yeah.
They remembered their car off the side of the road. They were led by a group of what we would probably call grays. They were led into a clearing in the woods where a ship was. They were taken on the ship, and they were separated at that point, and they were experimented on.
Yeah.
I guess you call examination. Betty Hill recalls having what was called a pregnancy test. And it was really interesting. She said that they were fascinated with Barney's dentures. He had denture teeth, and they were fascinated why his teeth came out and hers didn't.
Great.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just recalling that case because it was similar to what we were discussing, I guess.
Yeah. Linda Moulton Howell has done a lot of work talking about the Betty and Barney Hill case, and she's interviewed a lot of people, and it's interesting to take a look at some of her findings.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Linda Moulton Howe. She's interested in a lot of the same stuff I'm interested in. She has like a diverse kind of area that she investigates. So I kind of am like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But you're number 2 in the world in Mothman. She can never take that away from you.
That's right.
I haven't seen her do a whole lot of work with Mothman. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's your business card right there.
Yeah.
That's the resume builder.
So what is the? So let's get back into the UFO cases down there. What is the most credible UFO case that has been brought to you guys' attention that maybe you didn't necessarily investigate yourself, but one of the people down there investigated that you talked to or whatever? Like what's the one that really stands out, like, okay, this absolutely happened?
Let me think here. There was a series. There was definitely what we would call, we considered like a UFO flap, like multiple sighting. This was, I don't have my files right here in front of me. I think it's just 5 or 6 years ago. No. It's probably maybe 4 years ago. But we had multiple people contact us, and they had all either lived off of Route 23, right outside of Circleville, and we had people that were driving on Route 23 that night, and one of our members was also driving that night on Route 23, and they all reported seeing a silver craft with lights. And this wasn't this wasn't lights in the night sky. This was a solid craft that these people witnessed, and it was the time of day where it's just twilight. So it wasn't night, but it wasn't like bright of day, but they could still see clearly enough to describe this craft. And that was crazy. I remember we just had report after report, the same thing, the same place, the same 5 mile stretch of that highway. And that case definitely sticks out as credible just because of the multiple witnesses who all kind of corroborate their stories. And one of our members witnessed this. And I remember that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's...
Now,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
Well, I'm just asking, so, like, with all those witnesses, did anybody get any evidence?
No, I don't remember any photos taken. It's interesting that I've never seen UFO personally, but I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people who have, and they always are just so like amazed or interested or stunned or shocked with what they're saying. I mean, I hear this over and over that they say they didn't even think to try to record it or take a photo. Like, I hear that so much. And I'm guessing it must be true for how often I hear it, that it's just what they're witnessing is just they don't even want to take their eyes off of it. So we don't get a whole lot of videos or photos, but we definitely get a lot of stories that seem credible.
See, here's the big problem that we're facing is the generation coming up now who would be able to not take their eyes off of the UFO or the Bigfoot or whatever and capture evidence will never see the thing because they don't take their eyes off their phones to see it in the first place.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
So the ones that would be skilled enough at handling the phone and taking a picture and having it on Snapchat,
they're not even looking up, or
they're not even looking up. And maybe that's the genius thing that the aliens did was we're gonna take this generation and we're gonna make them oblivious to anything that's going on around them, and make them look at their phone instead of anything
Yeah,
else.
it is kind of kind of crazy when you think about it. That is how you put that. Like, and it's so true. It's very true.
Yeah, like the older people, and nothing against older people. I am one. You're right. You'd be like, wait, what if wait, how do I get this? Oh, there's a blurry photo of Bigfoot. I'm sorry. That's what we would have, because we're just not we're just not skilled at doing that sort of thing.
Yeah,
on the
UFOs are
fly.
interesting in that there are cases where there's a lot of people. Like, we've always considered the Myrtle Beach area to be a UFO hotspot. It definitely is. And actually, our director, one of his sightings he had was in Myrtle Beach, and he described it as a display that was meant to be seen. And we hear that with the orange orbs that are seen over Lake Erie a lot. Those are reported constantly, that they almost seem like they were putting on a display. So I think there are cases where it's weird, because we have cases where people talk about their electronics not working, their cameras not working, or their cars stopping, interference with technology, maybe in an attempt to make it so that you can't capture these things on film or video very well. But then we have other situations where the UFOs almost seem to be performing for people. So it's baffling, really. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so. What is the best? So like that incident there where it was viewed by multiple people to the point where you're almost like, yeah, there was something going on there. Like, what's the best evidence then that you've seen from Ohio, other than eyewitness accounts? I mean, is there any video or photographs or anything like that?
There was, let me think here. What was that? Was that in Ohio? I think that was, yeah. Okay, yeah, this was interesting. A few years ago, there was a video that surfaced on YouTube of a UFO flying over Portsmouth, Ohio, and I think it's been coined the butterfly UFO because of the shape of it. And normally with these YouTube UFO videos, I don't even give them a second thought, because CGI is so prevalent now that, I mean, I don't even really investigate UFO videos that were captured after the invention of, CGI, just because it's impossible. And I mean, you look at this video or even a picture, and it's impossible really to tell if it's real or fake. But there was this video that surfaced. It was released by that really famous YouTuber who posts a lot of UFO content. Gosh, I forget his name. But anyways, he's been criticized for posting what's thought to be hoax videos. But so he posted this video, and I remember it got sent to me by a few people, probably because it was in Portsmouth, Ohio, and I live in Ohio, and our group is here in Ohio. And I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the craft is amazing in the video, and it's a huge kind of butterfly-shaped UFO, and it's just sailing over Portsmouth, Ohio. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's probably CGI. It's pretty cool looking, but I really doubt it's real, so I didn't think anything of it. But I was in Columbus at a doctor's appointment of all things, in a waiting room, and I got to talking with this couple about UFOs somehow. And they were talking about seeing this huge, crazy-shaped UFO over Portsmouth where they lived. And I got to talking with them about where it was, how long ago this was, and they were talking about the shape of it. And I was just like, are you aware of the butterfly UFO video filmed supposedly over Portsmouth? And they said no, and I actually ended up pulling out my phone and playing it, and they were just stunned, because as they said, that's exactly what they saw on the day they saw it. And that just really kind of blew my mind. And these people were totally credible. I don't think for a second they were making anything up. So that just kind of made me rethink my whole, like, just blowing off all of these, online videos, because I think they all must be fakes. But the problem is that I think there's a good chance that some of these might be real, but they're in a sea of hoaxes so we just don't even know anymore, like what could be real and what isn't. But
right.
I think there is definitely some stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're gonna have to send me a link to that video, and we'll put it, or just go ahead and put it up in the After the Shadows forum page there, and we'll let all of our listeners take a look at it and
that
see
was
what
one
they
of
think.
The criticisms of this video and a lot of these others, when you've got like a huge UFO or large UFO in daytime flying, is one of the criticisms of these type of videos where, well, hundreds of people must have seen this, why aren't they coming forward? And I, for the most part, agree, but with this specific video, I met people who saw this craft and they weren't even aware of the video. So yeah, I can definitely send you a link. I'm sure it's still there.
Well, so people say that, okay, and then we'll get into the last topic we're going to touch about, like Bigfoot, okay. Well, where are you supposed to, if you don't know that your group exists, what's that couple that you met in the doctor's, what are they going to do? Call the sheriff's department? And say what? Hey, look, we saw something flying. We don't know what it was. What's the sheriff's department going to do?
We estimate only 1 out of 10. We estimate 1 out of 10 sightings are reported. Some people put it at more like 1 out of 100. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Most people do not report sightings.
Yeah, I mean, because number one, who are you going to report them to, and what do you think they're going to do anyway? I mean, even realistically, your group can go out after the fact, take down the information as it's reported.
Okay.
But it's not like, what are you guys going to do? Climb in your spaceship and go looking for the perpetrator?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing, and I think a lot of people would just like chalk it up to, okay, well, that's a once in a lifetime.
Just happened there.
Like what are you going to do? Who are you going to report it to, and what are you going to do with it?
I will just mention real quickly that if people do see a UFO, basically if you go online, because we're all online all the time, if you type in UFO into Google, the first thing that should pop up is National UFO Reporting Center. And I do encourage anybody who may be listening who has seen something in the past or has seen something in the future to at least take a minute and either call or fill out
a report.
On National UFO Reporting Center. All of groups like ours, when we hear about a sighting reported to us, one of the first things we do is go to the National UFO Reporting Center to see if anybody else saw the same things in your area, in the area. So it's a good resource. But like you said, Peter Davenport, who runs the reporting center, he's been doing it for 40 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, really, it's just a depository for sightings. But yeah, it's not like somebody's going to be able to come out and explain what you saw or tell you exactly anything.
No, but on the flip side, if you were able to get everybody that's really credibly thought they saw something to report it, imagine the picture then that would start to emerge of what and where things are happening, and
that'd be great information to have.
Yeah,
yes, it would.
Well, do you know what it'd be? It'd be like the notebook that you're keeping at the house on everything that happens, paranormal wise, where you can probably, if you really, depending on the haunting type, you might be able to start finding some patterns in, okay, when do I hear footsteps? Do I hear footsteps at this time? Do I hear footsteps more often when I'm alone or with somebody? There's certain patterns that are going to arise that you might be able to figure some other stuff out. And it would be the same with reporting UFOs, reporting Bigfoot, reporting, whatever people are seeing.
I agree for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I can figure that out, I think everybody else can figure it because I'm not very smart. But that goes without saying. It goes without saying. So let's get into then the superstar of the cryptid world, Bigfoot. Because I mean, I hear you're getting into going and doing some Bigfoot research.
Yeah, here in Ohio usually runs number 2 or 3 in the nation for Bigfoot sightings, Bigfoot reports. The eastern part of the state is heavily forested for the most part, and we have a lot of Bigfoot activity here in Ohio, and it's a great place to be a researcher interested in Bigfoot. We have the world's largest Bigfoot conference here in Ohio, the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. And there's what's called the Sasquatch Triangle up in northeastern Ohio, where a large amount of sightings happen. Salt Fork State Park is in the middle of that triangle, and that's people come, Bigfooters from all over the country, all over the world, come to Ohio to go to Salt Fork because of just the legendary amount of Bigfoot activity there. And of course, here in Ohio, Bigfoot is known as a grass man. So, like regional, and across the U.S., different areas have their kind of regional names for Bigfoot. In Ohio, it's the grass man. And I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot, and I definitely do a little bit of research, and it's one of the topics that I do work on. Yeah.
So what's your experience so far? Like, have you gone out and into the woods by yourself with some other people? I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I have. We usually call it Bigfooting, or squatching is another term people use. I've gotten with quite a few different people that I know in the Ohio Bigfoot community, and we go out usually to locations where activity has been reported previously. I have a good friend of mine, Linda, who owns a property down on the Ohio-West Virginia border, and we had some just some really great activity there on her property. She's a Bigfoot fanatic herself, and I came down to stay with her for the weekend with the hopes of going out at night and maybe experiencing or finding something. And that's probably where I've had the most personal experiences is Linda's property, where we've had sticks thrown at us. We always go out after midnight, and I usually am recording on my cell phone so I can try to capture anything. We've had sticks thrown at us. One time was really scary in that we were both standing. We were kind of concluded our activity for the night, and we were standing on this little dirt road out in the middle of nowhere, heading back towards the house. And I think I had stopped to turn off my cell phone or something, and put it in my pocket. And we heard a growl off to the bushes to the left of us, and it just stopped us dead cold. Like we were wanting something to happen, but when it did, I mean, it freaked us out, and it was not like any animal that we'd ever heard. We've gotten, Linda's property is great. There was one time we were sitting out in her back patio, and of course she's got all of these woods right at her back. Her backyard basically is the beginning of a forest. We were out there one night, and Linda decided to try to do some knocking on her patio. Actually, it was a little patio table, and we were out there listening for noises, and she started pounding her patio table, 1, 2, 3, kind of knocking, and we started getting responses. And it went on and on. She started knocking, and we got knocking coming from the trees, mimicking what she was doing, and that went on for a while. I started thinking something was out there messing with us, but I don't really think there was. There's nobody around, and so yeah, her house has got a lot of activity. So I've definitely had some experiences myself, as well as just being kind of like a researcher and somebody who's interested in it.
So has she seen anything herself down there, or is it just
I think
more...
she has had a sighting. I wasn't there, but one of the last times I saw her recently, she was saying that she had seen something. She had seen like a dark, large shape in the woods that she thought was Bigfoot. But I don't think she's ever had like an up close encounter, like face to face. But she did see something recently, and her and her husband have found footprints that they photographed that I've seen. Some pretty impressive footprint photos, and I think she's definitely got some activity out there. And like I said, yeah, Ohio has a lot more Bigfoot activity than I think some people think.
Yeah, I think it's increasing over the years here. I mean, recent years.
Yeah, it does sound like Eastern Ohio, Western Pennsylvania is just is like a hot spot,
right?
Definitely for whatever is out there roaming around. So where are some of the places that you'd like to go squatching if you could get the chance to go?
I've always wanted to go to the Pacific Northwest, to some of the really famous areas up there. I mean, yeah, to look for Bigfoot, but also just to kind of like see some of these famous areas like the Patterson-Gimlin film site. I've always wanted to go there. I always wanted to go just to some of these like places in Oregon, Northern California, Washington, where people, some really classic Bigfoot encounters have taken place. So I've always wanted to go down there. I mean, up there. I've always wanted to do that. Someplace else, Florida. Florida, of course, has, the skunk ape. What's called the skunk ape in the Florida Everglades. A lot of reports come out of there, and I've always wanted to go down there and maybe do some research. That's something I've been thinking about doing. I go to Florida every now and then, but haven't really gone to the Everglades area, but I'd love to do that.
See, it's one thing going out here in the woods in Ohio looking, but when you throw in the Everglades and swamp stuff,
yeah,
and alligators, and the pythons and stuff,
it's definitely kind of scary.
Yeah, it adds a whole nother element that it's just like, I don't know. Let's let somebody else go look for the skunk ape.
And the skunk ape has like a reputation for being kind of aggressive and territorial and angry. And like a lot of the reports coming out of Florida, the skunk ape, you'll get like bluff charges, whereas here in Ohio and other places, a lot of the sightings are just seeing a Bigfoot cross the road or seeing a Bigfoot in the trees. Florida has a lot of like up close kind of scary encounters, so that would be kind of freaky.
Well, I'd just like to point out to all of our listeners all over the world who listen to us that if the real reason the Ohio Bigfoot are a little more friendly and accommodating are because they're just like the rest of the Ohioans. We're all friendly and accommodating. Right? I mean,
there you go.
Cool. Yeah. Ohioans are cool. Ohioans are cool people. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen, we're trying to sell this, guys. We're trying to sell this to people that want to come to Ohio.
Even the name Grassman, supposedly, like the story behind that was the settlers were coming through Ohio and they would see these creatures, these big kind of like hairy creatures, just kind of hanging out in the grass in the meadows. Kind of sitting there hanging out, and they came to be termed grassman because they were often seen just sitting in the grass, So even that seems kind of.
Imagine that though. They probably the only contact they had with anybody was with the Native Americans, and the Native Americans probably knew enough to. From what I can tell, revered them as a spiritual type of being, and probably left them alone. And then all of a sudden you get these crazy Europeans coming, and you're lounging around, days in the grass are over, And now you're in
It's
the
like they
woods.
didn't have a reason to fear or hide back then. Maybe that's why they were spotted like that. Because
Yeah, exactly. Well, so Cameron, what's your next big adventure that you've got planned here once, I guess, everything gets back to normal, or even if it doesn't get back to normal around here? What's your next big project or adventure you want to go on?
Wow, there's I've been wanting to. Well, there's a few things I've been wanting to. Some kind of paranormal type stuff, paranormal tourism, I guess I'd like to do. Is I've gone to outside Area 51. I've been there a few times. The small town of Rachel. That was like one of my favorite trips ever. But I've been wanting to finally go to Roswell, New Mexico. I've never been there, believe it or not. And I've been wanting to go to Roswell for a long time. And I'm really excited about heading out there sometime and seeing the original Roswell crash sites, something I've always wanted to do. So that's probably my next trip. That's kind of like what I've been wanting to do first. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I've actually been thinking about, I've been doing a lot of research lately on the Russian Almasty, which is like a Russian Bigfoot creature. And although it seems kind of far out there, like I've been really thinking about maybe trying to take a trip to Russia at some point and do a little like in the field research on that, because it's an area a lot of people haven't done much on. I've been wanting to start going all over the world for sure.
Well, you picked some interesting places to check out, that's for sure.
I was gonna say, going to Russia right off the bat to go.
After I go to Roswell, check out Roswell, then I want to head to Russia and check out the Russian Almasty to see if there's anything to it or not. But yeah, I don't really know if I'll get to. I guess traveling to Russia is kind of crazy from what I've heard, but I don't know. It's someplace I definitely want to go. I would love to go to Australia and look for the Yowie. The Yowie is another big Bigfoot creature down in Australia. I've always wanted to go down there too. I definitely have like this desire to try to, because there's always been this thought that maybe Bigfoot is a creature native to North America, but you've got these other places across the world like the Orient Pendek in Asia and the Almasty in Russia and the Yowie in Australia, and there's a bunch of other ones. So I'm really curious to see if these creatures really are seen all over the world. And I would love to visit myself and try to figure that out.
Well, that sounds like a pretty admirable goal. I hope that you are able to get to some of those places and definitely come away with some, because you're in that young generation, so I think can handle the cell phone quick enough. You're at that line where you're observing and looking, but you can still handle the cell phone quick enough to get some evidence.
Well, I'll tell you what,
yeah,
Cameron,
I think so.
if you go to any of these places, Australia, Russia, or even Roswell, New Mexico, you have to make sure you come back and report to us on the From the Shadows podcast.
Yeah, I think that would be fun, and that would be something I would definitely do.
Outstanding.
Well, and I don't want to tease you, Cameron, but Jason and I have been invited to a Bigfoot hotspot in a couple weeks. Actually, I got a text about it tonight. So there's been a lot of activity going on in this place that we're going to go to. It's supposedly, I think I might stay back out in safety, out of harm's way, and send Jason in with Jerry, and let them go. But it sounds like I might get to go on my first Bigfoot adventure.
Yeah.
Well, try to get some evidence. It's not easy, but if you guys go, you should definitely try to record. Have, just like we talked about, have your stuff ready. Have like cell phone cameras are just as good nowadays as any other cameras, but you should.
Well, we're supposed to
try to bring back something.
We're supposed to be meeting up with a nationally known, renowned Bigfoot
Are you guys
researcher.
kind of observing then?
Well, listen, I just gotta be honest with you. The only evidence I'm getting is if I have to go retrieve Jerry's body from the woods. So I'll help drag it out.
Wow. Yes, to answer your question,
about that.
yes, Cameron, we are going to get some evidence. Right now, I know we're going to be working with FLIR cameras, definitely night vision.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're going to have probably several different digital recorders going.
And I will have a cup of hot chocolate and a walkie-talkie, so that I can.
You guys will be ready, man. You'll be ready. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yes, we're real excited about it. I hope everything continues to come together, and I'm glad he got that email. That's news to me. I didn't realize. Well, I haven't talked to you since this morning, Shane. So
hey, listen. The From the Shadows podcast is a very fluid organization here. Everything happens up to the second. You know, it's constantly changing. So.
Yes, it does. It's very dynamic. But it's always for the better.
So Cameron, before we let you go here, let everybody know if is it just in around the Circleville area, or do you guys get into UFO sightings all over Ohio or even Pennsylvania?
Well, we take reports from, well, basically anybody comes to us with a report, we'll take it down, put it in our files. But as far as actually investigating, really just I think we've gone pretty far as in Ohio. So I would kind of put the line as, if you've had a sighting in Ohio, then we would definitely investigate it.
Okay, so we encourage anybody listening. Number one, if you have a UFO sighting, no matter where you're at in the country and you don't know who to contact, get a hold of Cameron and his group so they can at least get the information into the database that needs it. And then if you're
we could do that.
And then if you're in the Ohio area, get a hold of Cameron and those guys, and they'll come out and maybe do an investigation if it's deemed worthy, I guess. So Cameron, go ahead and give everybody the ways they can get a hold of you and get a hold of your UFO group. And if they want, somebody wants to go UFO or squatching, and they're going to take you along, or if somebody wants to go research some ghosts, if somebody wants to have a expert author write a story about a paranormal experience, how do they get a hold of you?
As far as the our UFO group, you can contact us. I myself run our Twitter account. A lot of people on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at Roundtown UFO. We're on Twitter there. If you just type in Roundtown UFO Society in Twitter, you'll get us. So follow us on Twitter. You can contact us through Twitter, or a lot of people choose to. We have a website, roundtownufosociety.com. You can go there, and you can. There's definitely our contact information to contact us with any questions, or if you have a sighting, contact us for sure. If you want to follow me on Facebook, Cameron Jones, or I'm most active on Twitter as well, at para, P-A-R-A _mystery. So at para _mystery. You can follow me there. And I also write for sciotopost.com. So a lot of times I'll be writing about paranormal topics for the Scioto Post. So if you want to read any of my stories, you can check out sciotopost.com. And I think that's about it.
Jeez, when would you have time for anything more? I mean, seriously.
I guess I'm pretty busy, I guess. It's fun. I definitely like what I enjoy doing, and all of my free time is devoted to kind of like paranormal topics and it's definitely like my passion, like what I like and enjoy. So,
well, I'm gonna do a terrible Circleville pumpkin joke here and say, Cameron, I'm glad you were able to carve out some time to spend with us again and tell us about some of your paranormal and supernatural and cryptid adventures. And I just want to thank you because Jason and I had so much fun the first time.
Oh yeah, it was
fun
a blast
this time. And I'm just going to tell you, the whole group, including the Ozark Howler, he's going to make the trip from the Ozarks to next year's Mothman Festival. Because I
that'd be great.
I figure since we know the number 2 guy in the world, we might have a little juice in Point Pleasant. You know what I'm saying? We might,
Yeah, we could go out to the TNT area and maybe,
Oh no! Wait a second. I just meant like get some free food or something. I didn't mean I'm going out.
Oh, my
I don't want to go out.
What are you talking about? I'm not going out there and maybe run into that.
No, we'll just leave you in the car, Shane. But the rest of us and our investigative wing of the operation, we will go gladly. Cameron, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks. I really had fun tonight. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and you guys are really great hosts, and I really enjoy your show, and thank you for having me back.
Hey, we appreciate. Keep doing what you're doing because I'm sure you're going to have some more good stories to share with us sometime in the future. So, So, all right, Cameron. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you later.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, a final word. Please visit us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/From the Shadows Podcast, and on our Instagram page at instagram.com/From the Shadows Podcast. You can visit our webpage at FromTheShadowsPodcast.GoDaddySites.com, or contribute to our Facebook discussion page called After the Shadows, and tweet us on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/podcast_from. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.